Okay, so turns out that Johnny had a good day today.
That's what you said.
Well, no, I asked you. I asked you a question. I said, "Did you have a good day today?" And you said, "I guess so. It was fine." Why don't you tell us about your day?
Is that what people want to hear? They want to hear about my day?
You're a public figure, Johnny. Of course, they want to hear about your day.
It was fine. Like, it's just nothing terrible happened, so that was good.
Yeah, that is good. I was thinking the other day is that you know how they had the H, like the Hummer, and then they had the H2 and the H3,
Sure.
right? And then the H4, but if you did it with Roman numerals, would be HIV.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Now I want to buy one on Facebook Marketplace.
Okay, listen, we got to talk about some serious fucking things now. We got to talk about natural enemies, and we also have to talk about Beau Père today. So I think we should talk about natural enemies first because it's the one that I feel, I guess, less strongly about. But you seem to have a lot to say about it, and I'm very curious to hear what you have to say about it.
Natural enemies.
Yeah.
It's a really unique film. Like there's not too many films that explore that subject of depression, and sort of suicidal. It's even more than suicidal. He wants to kill his whole family. So suicidal, homicidal, depression, on this scale, and also there's no resolution, which is fairly unique as well. Like, you don't see that as up until the very last minute. I thought his wife was literally holding her hand out and saying let's fix this, and the movie just stops with the
radio.
The news report playing about how he just killed himself and his whole family, and you're just like, whoa, and then the credits are rolling, and you're just like, wow, that was really something. There's a Japanese film called Double Suicide. I think it might be an Oshima film, and I remember seeing it 20 years ago. But that also is sort of just 2 hours of suicide ranting, and then they actually do it. At least that's what I remember. But that's the only
samurai film, like an Edo era,
It's Edo era. Film. I don't remember samurai playing a role in it. It's just sort of, Edo era Japanese people. I think the two main characters, a man and a woman, are having an affair, and maybe they get and they don't want to leave each other. They're in this sort of pickle where they're having this affair and they just love each other so much, so they just decide to kill each other or kill themselves, each other, whatever. So they do a suicide pact. I don't remember liking the film, but that's the only other movie I could think of that has that sort of very bleak suicide story with no sense of hope or redemption or getting out of it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't turn around. It's just sort of this. What the name of the game is with natural enemies is just sort of eventuality, just watching a fucking, I don't know, watching an icicle on the side of your house just kind of slowly just kind of get weaker and weaker, and then eventually just break off, and that's the end.
Right.
That's
there's no. Because the movie starts off with him loading his rifle, he's from the jump, he's going to kill my family, going to kill myself, and that's what he wants to do more than anything. And then the whole you're spending the day with him as he goes to work, and he's talking to different people that he works with and friends, and there's also like a narration going on over the film where he's just like, nothing is good, everything is shit, and talking to friends who are trying to, one's like a Holocaust survivor saying like, he knows that this guy's sort of suicidal, he's trying to talk him out of it. Nothing sways him. And then I think like during the course of the day, I think he literally fucks like 7 women. So it's sort of like he's like living in Manhattan. He seems like he's got a nice house. He's like, there doesn't seem to be on the surface like anything wrong with him other than, I guess, something in his brain that just won't relent.
Yeah. Well, I mean, does he live in? I thought he lived kind of like in Connecticut or something. Like, doesn't he have like some house that's kind of like, out in the fucking
Well, I mean,
rural area?
He's not like living in he's not living in the Sahara Desert. I mean, it's Connecticut, so he's like living in some like, old, colonial house, which probably isn't cheap. He looks like he's got a nice chunk of land. But I mean, isn't that like what everybody in New York City does? Like they live in Connecticut and then they commute into New York City and work in the city and then they go home. Like millions of people do that.
Sure, but I'm just saying he doesn't live in Manhattan. That's all. Like
no, but he's working in Manhattan and going to whores in Manhattan. So
sure.
So
I'm just trying to be clear that this is what does he do for a living? He's like a magazine editor. He works.
He has his own. He has. I think it's his own. It's his magazine. Like he started his own magazine, right?
Right.
Isn't it like have like a science angle to it?
Oh, maybe. I don't. Honestly, the movie's a lot fresher in your mind than it is in mine. Because like, I saw it maybe like a week and a half ago, but you've seen it like maybe less than a week ago, or a week ago.
I feel like it was like some kind of like it had like a science angle to it, but then like all the people that were pitching stories to him, they sounded like more sort of human interest type stories.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's another thing about the movie. If you want to see like Hal Holbrook making love several times, if you've ever wanted to see that, you can see that here. Yeah,
you made a very a good point recently about how Hal Holbrook is just the kind of guy who just is one of those guys who's just always been old, and no matter what you see him in, he's just always loose skin in the face, just like that fucking mop of fucking gleaming white hair.
I feel like growing up in the 70s and 80s, there was always those actresses that were like, from the time you were conscious and you were watching TV or movies, like there were certain actors and actresses that like they were already old, but then they continued to live for like another 50 years. Like they were in the 70s, they were probably like 30, even though they looked like they were 50, like Hal Holbrook. And then, they just like their entire career, you just remember them as this old guy. Oh, that old guy from Magnum Force.
Right. Leslie Nielsen is a good example of
he just looked old his entire life. You just remember him as, you don't remember young Leslie Nielsen. You just remember old, or George Burns or something.
George Burns, damn. The fucking the king. Anyways, yeah, I've always thought that another movie that deals with like suicide and just sort of like just the abject horror of modern life is Combat Shock. And I actually found a lot of similarities between Combat Shock, aka American Nightmares, or American Nightmare. I can't remember if it's singular or plural. So Combat Shock and Natural Enemies I found to be very similar, because I think there's a little bit more to be said about Natural Enemies, because first of all, like, Louise Fletcher in that movie, aka Nurse Ratched, one could argue that all this shit kind of starts with her having this mental breakdown, and the Hal Holbrook character, doesn't really recover from that. he doesn't recover from it, and that's kind of what drives him. What seems to kind of kick off his descent into the mass murder suicide of himself and his family. But what's interesting about his predicament, I guess, is, and you've already said this, is that he's got everything kind of going for him. Like, he's got this nice colonial house, up in Connecticut. He's got 3 kids that seem healthy. I mean, that he doesn't seem to like them very much, because all they do is watch TV, and he's like, oh, they don't remind me of myself. They're just kind of like fucking shitty kids, and all they care about is the boob tube or whatever, And then, but I mean, it's not like they're fucking retarded or anything. It's not like
they're not
retarded.
like juvenile delinquents or
right.
Or mass murderers.
Yeah. Like, look on the bright side, Hal.
Well, that's sort of like you're comparing like Combat Shock. You watch that movie, and when the guy kills himself, you're like, yeah, I would too.
Yeah.
But in Natural Enemies, you're literally the rug is pulled out from under you at the end, where you're sort of like, oh, there's like a light at the end of the tunnel. Like, this guy's not going to do it. Like, you keep sort of like, you keep feeling like something's going to pull him out of it. He's going to get out of it. Like, something's going to make him not do it. And whereas in Combat Shock, you're like, he should kill himself within the first 2 minutes of the movie. This is fucking horrible, horrible existence.
Maybe I should elaborate upon why I make the comparison. I make the comparison just in terms of like the structure of the film, like not necessarily what they're about. And in fact, you're putting your finger right on the interesting contrast of the two, because in Natural Enemies, we're looking at a guy whose life just seems like pretty fine, like it seems okay to me. Like I said, job's fine, house is good,
I mean, marriage is in trouble, but
yeah.
He can't. There's other things you can do besides mass murder. He could have just gotten a divorce and moved. Like you said, he could have moved to New York City, got a nice pad.
Brownstone?
I'm sure probably could have got a brownstone in New York City. Probably wasn't very expensive back then at the time. He could have strolled over to that whorehouse and gotten 5 hookers a day.
Yeah.
But there is that element of like, he does feel like he's whining. Like it's hard to empathize with what he's going through, because he's just so fucking gloomy and everything is shitty, and he's just obsessed with, like, he's at the dinner table just like regaling his family with, like, oh, did you read in the news today that another guy killed his whole family? And he just keeps telling these stories of fathers killing their families over and over again. And like the families, like, I'm surprised they didn't head for the hills before, because they were just sort of like, all the signs were there. This guy's constantly like talking about killing his family, like other people killing their family. He's loading his rifle. Like, it's just like, get me the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Hey, family, did you read in the paper? There's this really cool guy that just murdered his family. Wow.
See, it is common.
Yeah. What a cool guy. I mean, you're 100% correct, and I agree with you. Like, I mean, that's the point I'm trying to make, is that everything's fine in his life, more or less, or at the very least, his life's normal. He's got a normal life. There's problems in his life, but they're not abnormal. Oh wow, he's fucking, after fucking 3 kids, all of which are teenagers. There's a little bit of friction in the marriage. Wow, big deal. Like, that happens all the time. That happens to people like a lot earlier in life. That happens before they have kids, like fucking 90% of the time. But what I'm saying is that in terms of just like the use of narration, the sort of methodical kind of exploration of the different facets of his life, and kind of just like him commuting and going places, and us, the audience, following along with him, and kind of getting a sense of his world and how he sees the world. This is how I compare it to Combat Shock. Like, it's the same kind of character study. The only difference is that, like, Combat Shock, and they're both suicidal. They're both kind of just like, everything's fucking terrible. The only difference, and it's hilarious, is that Hal Holbrook is like, you're just kind of like, huh? What are you talking about? Like, it seems fine to me. You know, I don't understand what you're talking about. But this to me, I find to be like compelling, almost in a comical way. Like, I want to see this fucking pouty fucking pussy just kind of eventually convince himself that there's no way out of this other than, you know, murdering his family and killing himself. Meanwhile, Combat Shock is it's just interesting to watch the two. Like, if you were watching both in a fucking double feature, you'd be like, okay, so this is the one where the guy, you know, should kill himself, and this is the one where the guy, or let me put it this way, this is the one where the guy has a reason to kill himself, and this is the one where the guy doesn't really have a reason to kill himself, or at least the reason is coming entirely from internal factors. Whereas,
and I was also thinking of that movie Falling Down.
Yeah.
And that it's also not like that, where in Falling Down you have these trigger moments where, you know, he's having, you know, I can't really remember much of it, but it's just sort of like he lose his job, and his marriage is on the rock. Like he's having like all these sort of like problems, and then like, you know, he goes to the McDonald's, and then they won't give him a breakfast at like 11:02 or something, and so he goes off. So like there's these sort of like, you know, mundane annoyances. He's already like on edge, and then like there's these mundane annoyances that sort of like cause him to go postal. You don't get that in this movie either. There's no moments where he just like things that like put him over the edge. Like he's sort of in this constant, continuous mental state through the entire film.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that to me is why I find the movie to be kind of like unintentionally funny.
And I don't know if I could recommend the film, but it is an interesting film only because it's like there's not many films like it. There's not many films that end in this way with like zero redemption.
Mm-hmm. All right. I feel like we're beating a dead horse with Natural Enemies.
But I just want to also say one other interesting thing about the film is the title itself, Natural Enemies, which I guess it's sort of implying like something about men and women are natural enemies. Like, is that? I mean, I'm not really. I kind of was. It's kind of a little ambiguous. It's never really clear what that is supposed to mean.
It doesn't make sense. It sort of makes sense because it's not like his wife has it in for him. Like his poor wife is just kind of like, you know, suffering mental breakdown, and then like
what's that movie where War of the Roses? It's not like this war. Another Michael Douglas. I keep going back to Michael.
You got Michael Douglas on the brain.
I do.
Sexy Michael Douglas.
That's why I was so happy earlier.
I had a great day. I was just sitting on my couch, just thinking about him, fantasizing about him.
But yeah, it's not like they're at each other's throats, you know, screaming and yelling, throwing plates at each other all day, and they don't feel. This doesn't feel like, oh, these guys are natural enemies. It just feels like a marriage in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, either I'm not fucking getting it, or it is
misguided.
I
saw it was like based on a book, so I don't know if the book was originally called Natural Enemies, or so I don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it either, but
I give it 2.5 eggplants.
Right. I think that it is worth looking at if you've seen everything else. You should take a look at Natural Enemies because of exactly what you said. It's very unlike most other things, and it kind of has a story that is like very atypical and doesn't really follow like the normal kind of,
like this is the type of movie that would never be made today,
right?
And I'm even surprised it was made then. Like it's that
right.
That bleak.
Because you want to at least have. It doesn't have to be like a happy ending, but you want to have at least sort of like a sense of justice or something, or some sort of sense of satisfaction.
This guy wants to kill himself at the beginning, he wants to kill himself at the middle, and he wants to kill himself at the end. And there's no arc
Yeah, he doesn't stop for a second and be like, "Well, wait a second, maybe." He doesn't ever.
Yeah,
do that.
there's not even a single moment where he's sort of second guess. Like there's moments where people are like talking to him, like his Holocaust friend is talking to him, telling him like, I was in the Holocaust. People were just like begging for like one more breath of life, and you just want to throw your whole life in the garbage. And Hal Holbrook is kind of staring at him, and you think like, oh, maybe he's like making a breakthrough here, but no.
Yeah.
Holbrook doesn't say anything, and he just continues on with the same. Like it's almost like it has no effect on him at all.
Yeah, it just goes to the narration. And it's just like, I wish Hitler had been a little bit more thorough, then I wouldn't have to listen to this fucking asshole on the train.
Oh, that's the other thing. When he has sex, you mentioned the train. When he has like sex on the train with some
That's
woman.
right. Well, yeah, okay. We can stay on this for just a second longer. This is the reason why you should watch this movie, is because there are just these little weird, bizarre moments that happen in it that, like these little, like that. I found that scene to be very compelling and like, wow, where is this going? How is this going? But like, just little things like that, little kind of moments that happen with Hal Holbrook, who's like just this damaged, weird, fucked up malcontent, and then him interacting with kind of like weird, people who are damaged in maybe some other kind of way, having a little kind of chance encounter and just sort of watching it unfold. It's undeniably interesting to watch. Whether it amounts to anything, I mean, that's maybe not up for me to say, but while it's going on, it's a good time. Because I actually forgot about that until you brought it up. But I remember kind of thinking like, oh wow, okay, I perked up during that part. Like, what the fuck's he doing? Like that.
Well, it's sort of
cool.
like if anything's going to make you not kill yourself, it's a
little bit of hot train sex.
It's a strange woman, just offering hot train sex to you.
Yeah.
Randomly. Even just like somebody offering that to you, I think would make me kind of perk up a little.
I have a little bit of pep in my step.
But it's still that has zero impact on his goal.
This guy fucks a lot. There's no shortage of fucking in this guy's life by any stretch of the imagination.
And when you look like Hal Holbrook, I mean, Jesus Christ, like that's pretty good news.
Yeah, I don't think that Hal Holbrook has. I mean, I always think of him as from the Creep Show segment.
Oh right, yeah, I forgot about that. I always think of him from Magnum Force.
Have you ever seen The Road before?
I've seen The Road, and I read the book The Road.
Oh yeah, did you like the book and or the film?
No,
neither did I. I thought it was fucking nonsense. And
I can't remember which I saw first, which I encountered first, the book or the film. I thought the book was sort of like kind of nothing, and then I was curious to see, like, because I read the book, I was curious to see like how they, like, maybe the movie elaborates on the book a little more and does, because the book is kind of like a very sort of like basic thread of story, and it's written in such a very like overly simplistic style. Like you could probably read the whole book in like an hour, maybe 2 hours. Mm-hmm. And so the film I thought was going to maybe, I was even sort of like, how are they going to make a movie out of this? It's like there's barely anything here. And yes, in the movie I thought was also kind of nothing, very unsatisfying. Not much really happens. Just kind of whatever. Just these two people wandering around. Yeah. It's not very exciting. It's not as exciting as you want an apocalypse movie to be. Well,
I mean, obviously what they're doing with this movie is they're not, it's not like the fucking Road Warrior. It's not like this kind of apocalypse. Like the style or tone of the apocalypse is like, this very kind of like moody, like, well, the world just kind of moved on and the world died and we're left inside its rotten corpse and we're just poking along until eventually the light in our hearts gives out. This kind of, I haven't really been able to like put a name on it, but it's almost like this, a film will sometimes overestimate how much the audience cares about this world that the film is presenting you with.
Right.
Just because, you guys kind of talk in kind of like quasi poetry and like, and the music is like sort of chamber music, quartet of violins playing. I mean,
pretentious.
It's just not enough. I mean, pretentious is probably an accurate enough word, but it's more specific than that. It's like assuming that I'm going to care more than I do. Just assuming just by by the style that you've chosen that I'm going to care more than I do. But there's nothing beyond this style. It's just the style of importance, Mm-hmm. And it bugged me the whole time. Just this kind of shit, and this is mirrored in the dialogue. Are you keeping the fire burning inside your heart, boy? It's like, yeah, we're the good guys. We got to keep the fire burning, and
it might be my least. Like, I've seen a lot of apocalypse movies in my life. It might be the worst one I've ever seen.
It's definitely not the worst one for me. I mean, there's a lot of apocalypse movies out there. Trust me, I can find you a bad one. But if you take it into consideration how much money was spent on that thing,
I want you to show me a worse one.
Well, yeah. Well, but you have to think of it in terms of like ROI, right? Like, I mean, there are plenty of like apocalypse movies that were made for like $8,000, and these ones are like unbearable to watch. Whereas like you spend $20 million and you get fucking Paul Newman to come in. Not Paul Newman. What's the name of that motherfucker? The guy who's in Falling Down. The cop in Falling Down.
Michael Douglas.
Not Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas is not the
Duvall.
cop.
Robert Duvall.
Robert Duvall. I said Paul Newman. Robert Duvall to come in. Let's move on. Yeah, the road can fucking suck my chode.
Yeah, fuck the road. Zero eggplants.
Okay, so next, this is the one that I've been meaning to talk about. Is Beau Père, the French film from probably like 1980, 81? I think 81, 80 maybe.
Sounds right. I don't remember.
Yeah. Wow. What a fantastic film. I really like this one a whole lot. Did you watch this one with your girlfriend or by yourself?
Girlfriend.
Oh, cool. How did she like it?
I think she really liked it. I think we both really liked it. Like, it felt unlike the Louis C.K. movie. Like, it felt like if you wanted to watch a film about this kind of like winter, spring relationship, it felt more... It felt like it was taking the subject seriously. It felt. Is
that a term that people use? Do people use the term winter-spring relationship?
Yeah.
Okay, I never heard that before. I thought you might have just invented it there. I was like, damn,
no.
Talk about look at Cormac McCarthy right here. Speaking in
who's
poetry.
The real poet? No, it's sort of like it felt like a real situation. It felt like, and when the romance starts, you believe it, and the conflict that ensues, you believe it.
Hold on 1 second here.
Oh shit.
It's not a winter spring. I mean, the guy's 29 years old, and she's 14.
Older guy, younger girl. That's all. Like, that's an underage girl, and in both situations, underage girl. Both situations, older guy. That's all I mean. That's the situation. Now, I didn't say anything about the financial stability of one or the other, or the fame or the popularity of one or the other, or anything else about it. But it's just younger girl, older guy, and right. And also a relationship that is looked up. Usually, in both cases, you would look at both relationships, and with a. They're not looked favorably upon in modern society. In fact, in both cases, they're against the law. So
yeah.
So in that case, they're similar.
It's just intrinsic in any kind of relationship like that there is going to be some kind of like emotional manipulation that's going on, which I think is not as obvious as it is in a maybe like in something like Lolita or something like that. But I mean, just the way that this guy talks to this girl. Oh, she's like, please, tell me, are we going to make love? And he's like, probably not. It's like, what? What do you mean probably not? And he's like, and you know what? Even if we were going to make love, I would make sure that it was, he's always kind of like he'll never ever say anything is like 100%. He'll never say no. He's always like, it's unlikely that we'll ever have sex, you know? And you're just like, what's this guy fucking doing? Like all this girl's hearing is just like, it's not 100%. It's not 100%. Like he's actually like the worst, maybe one of the worst, let's just say creep. He's one of the worst creeps I think that I've seen in any of these movies, just because of like how sneaky he is. And also the fact too that he probably, like, you know, on the outer shells of his mind, he probably thinks he's being like a noble guy. But if you actually sat him down and you really kind of like got to the center of it, you would see how he just wants that fucking young 14-year-old girl's pussy so badly, you know? Like he's absolutely 100% down for that shit, but he kind of has this what do you call that? Maybe like like an internalized social pressure where he feels like if he wants to be a good man, he has to resist her. But
I do feel like there is emotions involved. Like I feel like he does, or at least he thinks he has like feelings for this kid. You know, I don't think it's as noble. The feelings are as noble as, say, you might be able to, you know, that movie Death in Venice.
No,
like where he's sort of obsessed with the boy, but it's almost like he's like the boy becomes even more than just a piece of ass. Like it's sort of elevated to something else. It becomes more of an emotional, maybe even spiritual attachment he has to this kid. And I'm not saying that the guy in Beau Père doesn't have creepy tendencies, but I do think that he has some kind of legitimate feeling towards this girl. I don't think he's not like, oh boy, I get to fuck this young kid. Like he's not as insidious as the guy in Lolita, where he's like, that guy's like literally on the hunt and, you know, getting the mom out of the way and, you know, and then being so obsessive about like, where's she going? What's she doing? He's not like that Humbert guy at all. Like he's almost like, he seems to be in a way of like a victim of what's just sort of being thrown into the situation and being caught up in it, to some degree.
I hear what you're saying. This guy, he's not. I mean, it's like that fucking. What's that fucking? Someone's razor again. I mentioned it before on the show.
Occam's razor. Not
Occam's razor. Don't. It's like, hold on. I'm gonna
Schrodinger's cat.
Hanlon's razor.
So many razors. Gillette.
A lot of fucking razors.
Gillette's razor.
And that's a good joke. It's a very good one. It's never attribute to malice that which is adequately explained by stupidity. Like at least with Humbert and Lolita, you know, okay, this guy's on the hunt. He's a predator, you know, and
right.
It's explained. It's you know, I banged a girl when I was 14 and she was 14 too, but I was 14. And I remember just how fucking awesome it felt. And, you know, I just want to have that feeling again, that kind of like weird sort of intoxicating feeling of like sexual discovery again. And I can't have it with some old ass bitch. I need to have it with a 14-year-old. So that's what I'm going to do, because that's what I like. I don't necessarily like sex. I like having sex for the first time. And whether it be me having it for the first time or someone else having it for the first time, doesn't matter. I'm just into someone having it for the first time. So that's his motivation, and that's very clear. Whereas this motherfucker in Beau Père, the Beau Père, as it were, whatever. He's like, I guess he's a pretty talented piano player. He's talented enough to play in a fucking
restaurant,
a mid-scale restaurant, or like a 3-star hotel lobby. But he's not ambitious. He doesn't know how to fucking. I mean, that opening scene where he's talking with the mother of the Marianne, I believe her name is, and she recognizes him for exactly what he is, just like a loser, but just a loser who she's stuck with for the time being, anyhow. and she's like, she's a pretty lady. She's getting on, she's getting close to maybe her mid-30s, and she says, I have to do fucking lingerie, fucking modeling now because, my face just isn't young and pretty anymore. No one wants to fucking take pictures of it, but my fucking body's still good and my tits are still nice. So I have to do kind of like more underwear, erotic, racy kind of stuff, And he's kind of like, what, huh? I don't like that. And then he has to like push her out of the driveway because the car battery's dead. And the situation is just, it's they're not homeless, but at the same time, like, he's a loser, and he's not like providing what he needs to provide in order to give a comfortable life to.
But they're not married, right? Or are they? I can't. Is he married to the mother, or are they just dating?
That's a good question. I assumed that they're married because the film's called Stepfather or Beau Père, right? But I mean, that might just be.
I thought that meant the good father.
Yeah, that's what you call a stepfather in French, a Beau Père.
Okay, I'll take your word for that.
Well, I'm Canadian, so.
But they definitely are sort of lower middle class, I suppose.
Sure, but I guess the point that I'm just trying to get across is that this guy he seems to be. You know how it is, right? Like I'm the same way. Like you're the same way. Like we're guys who kind of like have decided to pursue careers based upon like our own sense of like egotistical grandeur, like my ideas are so great, and I'm gonna put out my ideas, and people are gonna like them, and luckily we've we've been able to kind of at least stay pretty much afloat and have some success with that kind of stuff, right? He's kind of the same way, except he's the farthest he's ever got was fucking the fucking lobby at the Holiday Inn Express, like playing piano. So I mean, it's about time, and I think he says this in the film too. It's like I gave myself till 30 to be a success with piano, and then after that I got to figure out something, which I think is a pretty not only reasonable but also honorable thing for a man to do. If you want to, like, you got to get out there and make some money. You can't be chasing your dreams your whole life, especially if they're not paying off. And maybe that's just the way I feel. But the thing is that I can't even remember where the fuck I was even going with this. Hold on a second.
You're trying to disparage him because he's just a loser.
Yeah,
why would this kid fall in love with this loser?
That's what I'm saying, is that this guy, the decisions that he's made in his own life are poor and stupid, and they're mostly dictated by just like laziness, or kind of like being feeling wounded, or feeling kind of like having a like, oh, I don't want to take on that job, like I'm an artist, I'm too good for that. Like he's a bitch, he's a sniveling kind of self-important little bitch with nothing. It's fine to be self-important if there's something to show for it, but he's got nothing to show for it. And then all of a sudden he's got this let's say tragedy happens, and he's got this young, beautiful, sweet young girl who's, I mean, she's dealing with the death of her mother, and I like to think that the reason why she's sort of attached herself onto this loser asshole is it's just the way that she's kind of sublimated the pain of losing her mother in some way.
But you're acting as if like a woman being attracted to a loser asshole is something that just like is impossible.
It's definitely not impossible, but in the sense of like, or in the case of this young girl, he's basically kind of just stumbled into this situation where he's got this girl, this beautiful young girl, this underage girl who's completely enamored with him, and he doesn't deserve to be loved or admired. Like,
I like how angry you're getting about like this guy like getting
I hate him.
Sex from that girl. You're just sort of like so like you're so mad. Like,
well, because he shouldn't, like he just, when she fucking says, like, oh, I'm attracted to you. You should just look at her and just be like that's never going to happen. Go to bed right now. And then instead of talking it out with her and try, it's actually very similar to the Louis C.K. movie. This guy is so unable to have this girl dislike him, or maybe even to have anyone dislike him, that he'd rather kind of, let her down softly than give her a hard no, which is what he needs to do. He needs this girl.
But also, he's not her father. Like, that's why I was kind of like, I wasn't 100% sure if he was married to the mother, because he has zero father skills, nor does he seem to have any, nor does he seem to even want to be anybody's father. He's so when you're sort of like questioning, like, well, this is what he should have done. Like, he's like you said, he's a lounge act. He doesn't know how to take care of a teenager with a recently deceased mom. He's clueless. see, I guess I would have to like, because I didn't even remember that piece of information. But like, if he was probably like in that position for 8 years of being the stepfather, that would make the situation a little bit like the fact that he's then like thrust into this position of being the father and kind of being clueless. It does make it a little bit less, I guess, believable that he would not know what to do in those situations. But it's like it does seem more like the character trait of him just being sort of like this lounge singer, this lounge piano player, kind of drifter guy with no real ambition is sort of like his main character trait.
You initially thought that like he's just kind of thrust into this father role, and it does feel like that. That's how the movie. If you were just to kind of take in the dialogue kind of at 50% or even at 75%, that's how it feels, the film. But if you're paying attention to like what they're like, every last little kind of errant line in the script, it's clear that like, yeah, she, I've raised her since she was 8 years old. Like, he's known this girl since she was like a child, like since she looked like a little kid. So I mean, that changes everything. But it, like I said, I'll reiterate, it doesn't feel this way for the audience. It feels like, okay, like all of a sudden this, the wife is dead and this woman shows up, this young woman, this 14-year-old girl, but the truth of the matter is that he hasn't stumbled into this father relationship. In fact, because of the death of his wife, he's stumbled into this would-be girlfriend situation instead. Like the situation I'll say it again to be clear. He's not stumbling into like being a dad. He's stumbling into just having like an unclaimed young woman in the house. That's what he stumbled into, right. And he should be. Like his alerts should go off immediately. It's like, okay, I need. But
I feel like it almost goes like, from what you're saying, it kind of is going both ways now for me, because it's sort of like if he's known her for 8 years, and that means she's also known him for 8 years. So the fact that relationship for her also is blossoming into something romantic, it doesn't feel like that's something that could happen after being in that position for 8 years.
Yeah, that's why
whatever.
My solution to that, or my explanation to that, is like this is how she's kind of like just reacting to the trauma of losing her mother. I feel like things make a lot more sense to like, as far as like men are concerned. Just I guess maybe just because I am one. So it's like I like when something fucked up happens, like a death in the family or like someone's loved one dies, and then my friend gets drunk and like gets into a big fight, like a physical fight with a stranger, and ends up in the hospital. That makes sense to me. It's like, okay, that all checks out. But then like women are different though, from my experience. Sorry to all the women out there listening. Like I don't I know there's probably not very many of you. But I feel like this girl being only a child, really, like 14-year-old child, and then all of a sudden being alone in the world, maybe, I mean, I'm not a fucking psychologist, maybe latches on, and also kind of like, she's 14, her hormones are starting to fucking come into play, like she's starting to become a fertile fucking young woman, and then there's this guy in the house, and also she realizes too that, oh, well, the mother's gone. She's kind of the glue that holds them together. Now that she's gone, maybe I'm going to be alone in this world. Maybe she fucking latches onto him using every weapon that she has available to her. I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to come up with sort of a reasoning. It's hard for me to say.
But it might be what he's doing as well. Like it might just be like some sort of like extreme form of bonding over that trauma.
Yeah. Okay. Well, in any case, I think that whether this guy is aware of it or not, he's preying upon this girl, and he's taking advantage of. He's taking advantage of this girl in a vulnerable situation, and he's also, instead of kind of doing what he needs to do in order to nip the problem in the bud, he's exacerbating it. He's kind of like giving her a little bit of a fucking, like, kind of stringing her along and just getting her so fucking horny until finally, like, when he actually does that.
Right. Well, there's definitely like a conflict in him where, you can tell he wants to, but he also doesn't want to. But it also kind of feels like you're sort of looking at the film from a very sort of moralistic standpoint, as opposed to like, here's the story.
Okay,
this guy who's this guy's this particular kind of a bum, low life weirdo creep, whatever you want to call him, and then this girl is in a vulnerable position, and then like through a certain thing, like I think as a movie, as just like as a story about like two characters in a winter spring relationship, that it's a interesting, like, dealing with that subject matter. I think it's a very interesting film.
Yeah, no, and you're right. It is, and maybe I am making the mistake of moralizing it too much. But I will say also that, like, there was a point in the film where I was kind of like, well, you know what? When they're in that fucking ramshackle house, and he finally gives into her. He's finally like, okay, I can't hold it back anymore. I'm in love with you, and I know it's a bad idea, but I'm in love with you, and unfortunately, we can't really be public with it because it's wrong, and why it's wrong. You're 14, but you must understand why that is. But I can't hold it back anymore, and so they're a couple at this point, and my thinking was like, okay, well, this is not ideal, but at the same time, like, like, life is fucking complicated, and maybe this guy is gonna fucking step up, and he's gonna get a job, and okay, finally, like, I found my true love. She's a 14-year-old girl, but I found someone to work for and to give my life focus. I'm gonna get a job.
But he's not the Humbert character from Lolita, where like, okay, I love this girl. Like, there's still this, I love this girl, and now she belongs to me, and we're together. Like, he's still very conflicted about being in this situation, and even after that moment happens, like it still feels like he's not comfortable with it. He's still kind of like looking
for a way out.
And yeah, the movie doesn't end with them like running off into the sunset together. It
Right.
ends with him like, so in that way, it's sort of like that is the problem that needs to be solved. It's sort of like, okay, I'm in this situation. Now this is not good. How the fuck do I get out of it?
The girl, Ariel Bess is the actress's name. I should get into that aspect of the actress as well. But before I do, like the character, the girl is like she's not like Lolita. She's not childish. Like she's very insightful, and she's very like super like perceptive and in touch with her emotions and well spoken and kind of wise.
And she's not like walking around in a bikini and licking a lollipop.
Yeah, exactly.
She's not coquettish.
So you're like, and also she goes to fucking work. She's the one she's winning the bread. She's babysitting for this fucking asshole so that they can eat fucking eggs and toast in the morning.
Well, that's why they can relate, because he's like a child.
Yeah, but I was actually about to get to your point. Instead of this guy kind of doing the right thing and learning to be a man and fucking taking care of this girl. Okay, well, it didn't happen the way that I thought. This is in some ways a nightmare, but I came out the other end of this thing finding the love of my life. Well, I guess a lot of guys in life don't find that, but I did, so I can consider myself lucky, and now I can get to work fucking putting a life together for us, right? That's what he should have done. But instead, what does he do? He goes and finds some rich lady and then fucking dumps the little girl. Go off, do your thing. I hope that you enjoyed, all the fucking sex acts that I taught you. You can go try them out on some other guy. Right. But I'm going to stick with this fucking rich lady, and then I'm just going to fucking leech off of her. She has a nice, beautiful apartment in Paris. I'm going to just I'm just going to latch onto this rich woman. So like, that's who he is. That's like I said before, I mean, he could have, he could have,
but in a way too, like that's almost like his lifeline of like, I gotta get out of this. This isn't good for her or me. I have to. So he sees the first opportunity to get out, and he just latches onto it. I just want to make it clear to everybody listening: don't fuck kids. Okay,
don't fuck kids.
Don't do it. I think both of us can agree on that. But in this particular movie, it's just a story it's a story where a guy has sex with a kid, and it's an interesting tale. Sure.
I just want to be clear here, John, that what I'm saying is that I love this film. I think it's great, but sure. I think that acknowledging that this guy is a shitty guy and pinpointing exactly the reason why makes it a more interesting film to me, because it's like
he's definitely a very shitty people are more interesting characters.
Yeah,
in films.
I agree, and I think it can't be understated that the relationship that the girl and the guy have in Beau Père is love. Like they've fallen in love with each other. Like right. that happens at one point, and it's right. like that's a tough thing to not take seriously because fuck it. I want to get off this topic. One thing that we should talk about also. One thing that we should also talk about too is the fact that Ariel Bess, the girl who plays the girl character in Beau Père, was only in this movie. I think one other small role in another movie, but she never worked as an actress again. Even though she gives like a fucking, like a stellar fucking performance in Beau Père. I could name a number of scenes that you're just transfixed by her. Like she's so good. She ended up working as a mail carrier. And then died at the age of 56 in her home. I poked around a little bit. I wasn't able to find any articles, but I found just some hearsay of people, just people in France who were able to poke around for me. And they're like, oh yeah, it turns out that it was a suicide, but the suicide letter was like not found by the police, so it was initially ruled as an accident. And I haven't ever been able to uncover the means by which she committed suicide. So how it could be, maybe she jumped off a fucking jumped out a window or some shit maybe. But then you go on Wikipedia and it just says she died at 56. And there's the suicide aspect of it is not mentioned at all. Another thing that should also be mentioned too is that her parents unsuccessfully sued the studio for putting her nude body on the poster of the film. Like on the poster of the film, if you guys look it up, it's just her sitting on the lap of the guy from Going Places, the guy who's the Beau Père,
Patrick DeWare.
Yeah, and she's topless, so like her tits are out, you know. And I mean,
you imagine seeing that poster at the AMC.
Yeah, at the local megaplex. But yeah, I mean, could you imagine seeing that poster at the local AMC and it's your daughter and you're just like, oh, what the fuck, you know?
I'm so proud.
You get on the fucking horn. I'm so proud she finally made it. But anyways,
did you see my daughter's tits at the AMC? That is a bold choice for a movie poster. Like you really have to be like just imagine the meeting that they had around the office and be like, what should be the poster, this or this, and probably had like so many different options, and they're like, go with this one with the tits.
Yeah, exactly. It was probably a pretty short meeting, to be honest.
But just think like how often do you even see like adult tits on a movie poster? Like almost never. Never mind 14-year-old tits.
It's so fucking weird. I mean, even just like the fact that like I'm just trying to think of like just like instances where there are underage girls that are doing nude scenes in films and no one fucking raises an eye, like no one mentions it or says this is a problem. I mean, Beau Père is incredibly sexualized, you know, like they've sexualized this young girl just about as much as you can without fucking showing like a
when I saw the movie
scene.
I thought it was like they found like a 18-year-old girl to play 14,
no.
You know, like a tin drum situation where they
they
find like a midget to play like a kid.
Some weird fucking freak.
Or like what's the movie where the guy bites his mom's tit?
Burial
Ground.
Yeah,
I thought it was like Burial Ground.
Yeah, except that doesn't even look like a child. It looks just like some.
Well, it took me like a few minutes to be like, what the fuck is wrong with this kid? He looks sick.
Yeah. Oh, that movie rules. What a fucking fine film. Yeah, fuck. Well, yeah, man. I don't know what to tell you. I think that that there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot kind of that isn't moral. It isn't, maybe that, you know, that when I was getting angry before, maybe that's kind of what fuels it. Is that when I read about that girl, I felt so sorry for her. I felt just like this is just like a girl who she's beautiful, she's talented, and also from the perspective of like a director, she's like the most important thing that like an actor can be is just someone who's just willing to just work with the director and just like give everything, you know, like she's willing to do that, and instead of kind of Sergio Leone and what's the name of that Jennifer Connelly?
Lee Van Cleef.
Yeah, Lee Van Cleef. Do you remember how Jennifer Connelly was in Once Upon a Time in America? As like the little girl?
Man, I don't remember at all.
Well, I'd suggest that you do a rewatch of Once Upon a Time in America. I know it's a long one, but
I'm probably due for a rewatch.
It's really I saw it recently actually for the first time. When I say recently, maybe like 6 months ago. I just never could muster up the gumption to watch it. But I saw it and I was just like, this is the best one or the one that I like, the one that I kind of connect with the most of all the sort of.
It's great.
Yeah, but Jennifer Connelly plays the young version of the guy that Robert De Niro rapes in the fucking.
Well, there's like a couple rapes.
But the one in the car.
There's Elizabeth McGovern, and then there's Tuesday Weld.
It's not Tuesday Weld. So it's
Elizabeth McGovern.
He rapes her in a limousine or in a car, like, or something.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jennifer Connelly plays like the younger version, like when they're children.
Okay.
And I remember seeing like the I keep wanting to say Lucio Fulci. I keep wanting to see the Sergio Leone documentary, and Jennifer Connelly comes on and talks about her relationship with Sergio Leone and how protective he was of her and how he kind of like sheltered her from just anyone fucking with her, and like he valued her so much. And I was just like, fuck, why couldn't this director in Beau Père could have valued this girl instead of just kind of like, okay, you take your shirt off. We're gonna use it for the poster. Fuck you. I will sue you. You want to sue me? I will fucking sue you back. You know, like just like.
He sounds like he probably didn't tell anybody he was going to use her for the poster. That just like happened. And
yeah.
like,
It's
what
just,
the fuck?
it's just so the whole situation is just so ugly, and it gets swept under the rug, and it's like, and in the Wikipedia article, which is basically her legacy, doesn't even acknowledge any kind of wrongdoing, you know, at all. Like, and it's just like, it just sucks. Because I mean, like, what the fuck do I care? I guess I don't know. I just don't like seeing. I just don't like hearing those kinds of stories because it doesn't need to happen, you know. But then at the same time, the film itself, anyone who watches that film can see very clearly how she carries the fucking movie on her shoulders. Like the movie is nothing without her, you know. So.
I also mentioned the guy killed himself too. The male lead in the film. He was in a relationship with somebody. It was like a relationship thing where he was like in a relationship with somebody and then cheated on them, and then that person left them, and then he was all fucked up over some relationship stuff, I guess, and then killed himself. He might have had a drug problem as well, maybe.
If you were ever going to commit suicide, how do you think you'd do it?
Oh, I don't know.
You ever thought about that before?
Not to like that extreme. I guess like just like if jump off a building or something. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know. That seems tough. Whenever I try to jump off of like a cliff into water, I always imagine what it would be like if I were just doing this onto concrete. And it's just like, oh, this. I mean, you only have to do it once. I mean, ideally, I think that I'd probably do the what they call the stuntman suicide, or the stuntman's death, where you blow your head off with a shotgun, but you do it with a toe on the trigger.
I feel like any form of suicide just seems so like it just seems so. It's like easier just to live. Yeah. Like it's like it just seems so much work. Like, oh, I gotta jump off the building, or I gotta find a building and then climb up to. Like, it's just like I'd rather just stay alive.
Well, the stuntman suicide, I learned that term from Richard Farnsworth, famed stuntman and American actor. Probably. I mean, I know him from Misery as the sheriff in Misery, and I also know him from David Lynch's Straight Story.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I remember that guy.
Yeah. So he was diagnosed with like some kind of terminal cancer, and instead of like telling anyone about it, he just kind of like he was like, okay, doc, got it. And then he just kind of like lived with cancer for like a while. If I may be mistaken, but I think that during the shooting of Straight Story, he was like fully cancered out. Like just cancer was just eating him from the inside out. But he didn't want to fucking trouble his family with it. And he didn't want to kind of have just everyone having to go and give him sympathy and stuff. So he decided just to kind of keep it a secret. And then when it became unbearable, he just blew his head off with a shotgun.
The Straight Story.
Yeah. All right, man. Until next time, I'll see you later.
Later. Bye-bye.